Hi there, welcome to the latest episode of my 10-minute moan. And the topic of this 10-minute moan is I catch up on the BRANCHFORM investigations, stories that have come out over the last couple of days. And it appears not only are the police investigating wider ranging issues than we first thought, but there's now some within the police upset about how this case seems to be dragging its heels. So I'm going to use the Express for reference, and their headline, Nicola Sturgeon investigation update as cops fume over SNP probe dragging heels. Cops investigating claims of embezzlement of SNP funds are said to have been frustrated at the length of the probe, with Nicola Sturgeon still a suspect. Now, the thing's obviously going on for 3 years now and seems to be upsetting a lot of people. Cops are fumed that the Crown Office is dragging its heels over investigation into SNP finances, with Nicola Sturgeon among the suspects. It's worth probably pointing out at this point, if you don't already know, that the Crown Office is headed by Dorothy Bain, who is Cabinet Minister for the Scottish Government, which is run by the SNP. Police officers investigating claims of embezzlement of SNP funds are said to have become frustrated at the length of the probe. Operation BRANCHFORM was launched over 3 years ago after complaints were made about how £600,000 of funds to fight a second independence referendum were spent. Police Scotland handed a report to the Crown Office 2 months ago, but there have been no further movement on the investigation. Former SNP Chief Peter Morrell, who is married to Nicola Sturgeon, has been arrested and charged with embezzlement as part of the probe. Ms Sturgeon has also been arrested and investigated by detectives, as has Nat Treasurer Colin Beattie, MSP. Neither has been charged, but they remain under investigation. Reports at the weekend suggested officers were probing whether a phantom company received significant cash from the SNP for refurbishment work allegedly carried out at the party's Edinburgh HQ. Now Callum Steele, the ex-General Secretary of the Scottish Police Federation, which represents rank-and-file officers, has spoken out about the time it's taken to bring the probe to a conclusion. He told The Sun the police service will be delighted attention is finally on, as they felt frustrated with COP FS, that's the Crown Office and Prosecution Service, was trying to drag the inquiry out by asking the police to do more and more. Now only they can answer why the delay. Operation BRANCHFORM has already cost the public purse well over £1 million since it was launched in the summer 2021. Scottish Conservative Party Chairman Craig Hoy said this is clearly a long and complex investigation, and that's why it's important that the police and the Crown Office are as transparent as possible. It's understandable that people are asking why this case is taking so long to progress. There may well be very good reasons for that, but many following it are wanting the authorities to get on with it. As the probe continues, the SNP must continue to fully cooperate. A Police Scotland spokesperson said, on August the 9th, 2024, we presented the findings of the investigation so far to the Crown Office and Prosecutor Fiscal Services, and we await their direction on what further action should be taken. Crown Office previously said it had received a standard prosecution report about Mr Morrell's case. It referred to the statement from May this year, saying decisions on how to proceed are taken by prosecutors acting independently and are based upon available evidence, legal principles and the merits of each case. They are not influenced by political events. An SNP spokesman said as the case remains active, it would be inappropriate to comment. So what's basically happened here, there's 3 stories within this story. When someone gets charged in Scotland, the police do that and then they send the paperwork to the prosecution service. They then either prepare the case or decline the case to take it to court. That happened with Mr Morrell months ago. And then 2 months ago, the police offered all the evidence they had on the other people being investigated. And at this time, we only know that Colin Beattie and Nicola Sturgeon are investigated. If there's other people being investigated, we don't know, because we've not been told. So we can only take it that the papers sent to the prosecution service are indeed relating to at least Nicola Sturgeon and Colin Beattie. And they asked the prosecuting service what they wanted the police to do going forward. And there's been no response. Now, they could do a few things. They could tell the police that they don't have enough evidence to prosecute, or they could tell the police that they have enough evidence to prosecute, but they don't feel it's in the public interest, because there's a test that has to pass. Or they could say to the police, yeah, enough evidence here we feel to prosecute, and go and rearrest them, charge them, and send us a file. None of that's happened, and it's taken 2 months. And I find it difficult to believe that this would have been the first and only information that the prosecution service have got, because this case has been going on for 3 years. They already have had quite a lot of I would imagine a lot of the evidence that was presented prior to that, when they charged Morell, would be relevant to anybody else being investigated. So I don't think this delay is only 2 months. I think if the prosecution service had just received first sight of any evidence in this case 2 months ago, then you could possibly argue it's complex and they need some time to look at it. But I don't believe that to be the case. And again, I think because of the situation just now where the person in charge of COP/FS has got 2 roles in Scottish judiciary in position of being a cabinet minister, there is obviously a risk of a conflict of interest there. And that has got to be something that the public have got a keen interest in. How our government works is quite important to people. So I think they have to become probably more transparent with this case than any case that they've tried before, because of this potential for a conflict of interest. Now, if Dorothy Bain's doing nothing in this case, then we need to kind of know who is doing it, because without knowing that information, there will always be people thinking she may be influencing this. And the fact that is, I think it's very easy to say that she just shouldn't be anywhere near it, because of her connections to the SNP government via being a member of the cabinet and being to a lot of cabinet meetings. So I think the Scottish public are due more transparency than we're getting just now, and even an indication of timescale here, because 3 years and £1 million is kind of expensive. Is it expensive? I don't know, actually. That's probably a wrong thing to guess, because the man hours for police alone could be quite significant, and you do want this case to be looked at thoroughly. But the fact that the police are now coming out, and police bodies are coming out and saying we're getting frustrated, that tells you a lot, because the police will have known what sort of timescale to expect. I know it's a slightly unique case, but they'll have had cases of this size before with the amount of evidence, etc. And they would have had an idea of what they would have expected to have timescale from giving the documents to COP/FS and getting some kind of response, particularly on the man that's already been charged, where the police obviously believe they've got enough evidence to convict somebody, or they wouldn't have presented it to COP/FS. And then they then decide whether to put it to court. And the other part of this story is the suggestions that we saw at the weekend, where there may be six-figure sums, money come out of SNP and get into the hands of spurious, non-existent companies, which is a bit bizarre. But we need to remember, I think it was probably about 6 months ago, maybe a touch more, where the police did say that their investigations had now went out with and further afield to the initial complaint, which was specifically for £600,000 of money that was ring-fenced for a potential future independence campaign. So we kind of got a hint months ago that it wasn't just this 600,000, and now we've got another weekend where there's a suggestion being made that there are spurious invoices going into and going to non-existent companies, which means somebody's been a beneficiary of that money to do nothing. So that's a bit of a bizarreness. Another thing is this information about the potential fake company, that didn't come out in any official channels, and probability is that came from someone within the police. Now that in itself tells you a story that the people in the police must be frustrated because somebody wants to say something and let the public know something, and that could or could not be another reason why the case is taking so long, because it's not just the £600,000 that you would think it'd be quite easy to see that £600,000 isn't there anymore, because this ring-fenced money wasn't there in the accounts in 2021, which is what instigated this complaint by a member of the public. Because they went, hold on a minute, £600,000 meant to be ring-fenced, there's your accounts, and you've said the cash in bank's 50 grand. So the 600,000 isn't there. And I think people's first perception of that was the SNP had spent it on something else. And then you start like hearing about embezzlement and stuff like that. That's not the party using it for something else. That's like individuals using it for other things. And then obviously we've seen motorhomes being taken away and gardens being inspected and houses being taken apart to look for things. So, interesting times. What do I think will happen? I've still got a bit of faith in this case, not because of a trust in anybody, but just because of the public interest in it. If this was to just disappear and go away and no charges brought, I think that would open up a hornet's nest of inquiries and public demanding to know things, and that would probably be a worse scenario than not prosecute. If there's enough evidence to prosecute, obviously, but I would kind of think there's at least enough evidence to prosecute Mr. Morell, or the police wouldn't have put the charges up to the prosecution service. So I still kind of, I'm not 100%, but I'm kind of more than 50% sure somebody will go to court for this, because it doesn't make sense if they don't, and I think the public outcry would be too large, even if the establishment thought it would be good not to get this to court. I think that has to happen for the benefit of the people of Scotland. And what I need to remind people is, this complaint did not come from a unionist like me who, definitely, I'm not kidding on, I'm not hiding the fact that I don't like the SNP. This came from a nationalist. So it wasn't a witch hunt. This was a guy and a few people who had concerns about where did their money go. And that's led into other things, because the police have admitted this. We've already heard this information months ago, that the investigation was wider reaching than this initial £600,000. So let's hope the police are thorough. Let's hope the police do find stuff to back up the arrest that they made months ago and a year ago now. And the prosecution service are able to proceed this to court. And then we can hopefully let judges and juries decide if there's criminality or not. If you enjoyed the video, please give it a thumbs up. If you've not already done so, please hit the subscribe button and notifications. Let us know your comments below what you think of the story in the video, but most importantly of all, unless you are somebody who thinks it's wise to take £600,000 off the good Scottish people, whether they're nationalists or not, and not have it there when somebody was looking for it. As long as you know them, see everybody else.
Have a great day. Cheerio, bye now.